The WagerTalk You Pick special is live, giving you the option to pick the league of your choice and get 30 days of picks for only $99. 30 days of the NFL for $99, done. Just want NBA and NHL for the next month? You can do that for only $99 each. That's right, $99 gets you every release from the league of your choice from your favorite handicapper, including 5% best bets for 30 days. No coupon code is required, and 30-day sports passes will go back to regular price Sunday at midnight. So lock in as many sports and handicappers for only $99 before time runs out.
Welcome, everybody, to Prop It Up. It is Friday, and as we all know, Friday starts the weekend, and we are here to make your weekend a profitable one in the prop markets. Joining me, as always, my fellow prop masters. We're going to flip the script a little bit. We're going to go over some fun facts, and then we're going to get right into some picked NFL games. And I don't mind telling you, the fun facts are, this is the best of the year. So let's get into some crazy fun facts of the week. When Joe Flacco plays this Sunday, that will make 3 quarterbacks from the 2008 draft class who will have played this year. Joe Flacco is 1. Josh Johnson is 2. And we'll see if you can name the third. I'll give it out at the end of the fun fact. So see if you can name the third quarterback who's played this year in the 2008 draft class. Fun fact 2, this is the one that will probably drive me out of fantasy football forever. DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Lockett, Keenan Allen, A.J. Brown, Deontay Johnson, and Antonio Brown. What do they all have in common? These are all wide receivers who have less fantasy football points than Jamal Agnew of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So much for doing all your research in fantasy football before the season starts. Fun fact 3, the Texans are moving Jeff Driscoll to tight end. This is now 2 times this season in the AFC South that a quarterback from the Florida Gators will be trying to play tight end. See if you can name that guy, the second one. If you would have bet every Ravens, Bengals, Giants, and Steelers first quarter under this season for $100, you would be up over $2,500. Teams not getting it done early on. And a little NBA fun fact, 38 times Steph Curry has made 9 or more three-pointers in a game. Nobody else has done it 10 times. So Steph is at 38. Second place is at 9 times. All right, Matt, you sent me an insane fun fact from college football. Let's hear it.
All right, so Southern Miss is playing tonight. They're taking on Louisiana Tech. Their offense has been atrocious so far this year. Southern Miss has used 10 different quarterbacks this season, a.k.a. 10 different people have taken snaps. Of the 10, only 5 began the season as quarterbacks on the roster. 2 of them were running backs, 2 of them were wide receivers, and 1 was a grad assistant coach.
It's a well-oiled machine there. You're starting grad assistant coaches at quarterback. Matt, do you happen to know who the third quarterback is that played in the 2008, or he was from the 2008 draft class? We got Joe Flacco, Josh Johnson. Do you have any guesses?
Is it Matt Ryan?
It is Matt Ryan. Well done. Well done. So those are your 3 quarterbacks left from the 2008 draft class. Incredible.
I don't know about you, Matt. My favorite is when Andy's listing those off and he just can't get them out because he's laughing. And I just know it's going to be the best one because he's just laughing while he's listing it.
I love fun facts and fun stats. They're fun. That's why we call them fun. We don't call them boring stats. So
absolutely.
Andy was just reading off all the wide receivers on his fantasy football team for that second stat.
I do have a lot of those guys. I do not have Jamal Agnew.
I got to give you guys credit for these first quarter totals because, you know, I've actually gotten involved with the first period totals in hockey, and it's kind of reminded me of what you guys have been doing. Matt, you know, with the Army, Navy, schools like that, and Andy with these NFL teams. It seems automatic. I mean, you guys, we always say, you know, trends can't last forever and stuff, but you guys are finding some teams and some opportunities and making good use of it. So hats off to you guys. I have to recognize the first quarter spots you guys have been finding.
Well, it's amazing that this strategy is working in multiple sports. We've all found different sports that this works at. And, you know, the strategy of like, okay, you know, at the end of the first quarter, you're not going to have a big rush for points and teams that start off slow. It's working across all sports, which is making this fun. And it's making it very profitable. So let's jump right into NFL games. Matt, I'm going to come to you first. Very, very interesting game. At least I'm going to be paying attention to this game. I have some pretty strong thoughts. Let's talk about the Eagles and Saints. You got an incredible matchup in the running game. I imagine you're going to be talking about that. So what can we expect from the Saints and Eagles, especially from the prop standpoint?
Well, obviously Miles Sanders coming back throws this whole backfield into kind of a mess. I mean, I don't know how much I would use Miles Sanders. If I was Nick Sirianni, I'd still go with Jordan Howard as my lead back and probably sprinkle in Miles Sanders. I don't know if that's going to be the case, and I think there's a chance that we could find some value on unders for the Eagles running backs for Sunday. The Saints have, if not the best, they're like one of the top 3 or 4 run defenses in the league. And I think eventually Nick Sirianni is going to go back to the whole passing the ball a little bit too much. And remember, this is a Saints team last year. This was Jalen Hurts' coming out party. And what he did was he basically made the Saints look foolish. And they're going to get another crack at him in Philadelphia. People may not remember, last year the Saints-Eagles game in Philadelphia was the 3rd game of 3 straight on the road for the Saints, and we know how teams do that, especially a dome team, 3 straight road games, so that's kind of why they also look poor here. On the Saints side, I think you're not going to see a lot of statistics until we figure out what's going on with Alvin Kamara. I think there could be some value on Mark Ingram's over. Even if Kamara plays in this game, I think Mark Ingram's going to get plenty of run. The Eagles' run defense has been hit or miss. Some teams have decided to commit to the run and beat them up a little bit. Some teams have not. The other thing is maybe Adam Troutman comes into play here. He's had a down season. He has not been involved very much, but the Eagles are horrendous against tight ends. And you know how much guys like Trevor Siemian love the tight ends, love the little dump-offs to the guys, because who's the Saints wide receivers? I mean, it's Marquez Callaway, it's Traquan Smith. They're not very good. I think we could also find some value on Adam Troutman props in this one potentially because of the Eagles' struggles against tight ends.
Yeah, Matt, I was going to ask you about Jalen Hurts. I've hit this the last couple weeks, and I really enjoyed the sentiment coming out of the Broncos game saying, well, Jalen Hurts just, torched the Broncos. And you look at the scoreboard and say, okay, 30-13. That's a really, really good performance. He only completed 16 passes, and he only had 178 yards against Denver. So I'm wondering if there's going to be value in taking the under on Jalen Hurts here just because of what you're hearing in the news and what you're hearing on major news outlets. There's Hurts is playing so good. But from a prop perspective, can we look at some of these unders here?
I would think so. I mean, you have to check the weather. Of course, now this is also the time when wind and cold and rain starts to come into play. So that's something you certainly want to look at. But I mean, I'll argue that Jalen Hurts had his best half of his career in the first half in Denver. And now look, as you said, the statistics don't exactly say like, oh, he had 30 completions, but like he made some really good throws in tight windows. There could be some value, although I think that what's going to happen is the books are going to start to lower all his stuff because it's now 3 or 4 weeks where he's just not running the ball. He's just not throwing the ball. And I think with the Saints being so good against the run, you might want to be careful with regards to what we might see a little bit more passing here because that's how you would, in theory, beat the Saints. I also wonder, is Marshawn Lattimore going to follow Devonta Smith everywhere? And how's Devonta Smith going to do with Marshawn Lattimore's bumping and right off the line? Is this kid who's very small going to be able to handle a little physical play off the line? So maybe you want to look at a Quez Watkins who's going to get the rookie and maybe able to torch him instead.
And then, you mentioned prop bettors, we have to be looking at what is going to be the stat of Alvin Kamara. It does not look good. I believe he was downgraded yesterday. But you mentioned Mark Ingram, and this is a tricky one. Would you, if you're betting Mark Ingram, do you want Alvin Kamara to play so you get really low numbers on Ingram, or do you want Alvin Kamara out so Ingram gets the lion's share of the carries? What would you want if you're looking at Mark Ingram props?
No, I want Kamara in because I feel like Kamara is going to play. If he plays, it'll be one of those 20-25 snap situations. Remember, they play on Thanksgiving, so it's a quick turnaround now. That could be one of the reasons why he hasn't practiced as much. They want to preserve him for Thursday, with the short turnaround and everything like that. But I want Kamara to play so I can get lower numbers on Ingram. If he doesn't, they may overinflate Ingram, and then we may look at an under or something if it's too high. But yeah, I need the starter to play so I can play the backup.
Nice. That is great stuff from Matt Josephs from sportsmemo.com, coming off a great baseball season with K-Props, doing great in college football and college basketball, just getting started. Matt Josephs from sportsmemo.com. Andrew, coming to you. You and I did a video on this one. Ravens, Bears, another intriguing matchup. We got a couple of pretty exciting quarterbacks, some inconsistencies on both sides. How are you looking at Ravens and Bears from a prop perspective?
Andy, I was joking around pre-show before we went live here with you guys about how you guys continue to pick your teams. You know, the Colts for you, Andy, and the Eagles for Matt. And obviously, I'm a Packers fan, but I'll tell you, when we do the Propsies show, and I hope we do it again this year, Lamar Jackson's going to get something from me. There's going to be some type of gift or some type of presentation or some type of remembrance for all the props I've made of Lamar Jackson this season, Andy, because it seems like he's been my guy this year, whether it's been longest completion, whether it's been his rushing prop or passing prop. He's just been my guy this year. And for this week, I'm not going back to his old reliable, for me anyway, the rushing prop. I'm looking at his passing prop here. And I just think that we're getting too low of a number here. And the funny thing is, over 220 yards, he's got over this in his last 4 games. And we have a Chicago Bears team that has allowed over this in their past 4 games. They're allowing 241 passing yards against per game. And I told you this is going to be a sloppy game when we did our video together with Drew Martin. And I think that many people might think this is going to be a boring game and kind of one that you might not enjoy watching. And I think I'm on a complete different side than that. I feel like we'll actually see some quality offense from both sides. And I think that realistically, looking at this Ravens team, just from a point spread perspective and team perspective, their defense has let them down. You know, I think that Lamar Jackson constantly gets overlooked for his great passing game, and everyone thinks he's just a running back. And I've been the one to come on here on the prop show and make jokes about that because he is kind of a running back as well. But, you know, the number is just disrespectful. The number is far too low. And you look at what he's done and what Lamar has done in the history against Chicago. Over 220 passing yards is one that I wanted to go for. And here's one that I'm interested in as well. David Montgomery, over his yards of 60.5 for rushing. I just find it interesting because so this number is 14 points off from his average rushing yards on the season. And the reason being is because the Ravens are actually top 4 in rushing yards against. So we're looking at a 14-point differential for a Ravens team that does well against the rush. But I look at all of these stats here. There's so many trends you can point out that point towards him just absolutely getting fed. And to me, touches are all about, it's all about getting touches when I'm betting these props, especially in a game that I think is going to be back and forth and closer than some might think. And I look at this number and I just think it's more of a betting the number, not the player type of situation. Because when you look at somebody that's averaging 74.4 rushing yards per game on the season, and we're getting 60.5 as his number here, and I expect this defense of the Ravens not to have the best week, I think we can get over here with David Montgomery, and it's kind of a disrespectful number, Andy. I'm curious your thoughts on that, but those are 2 plays that I've circled, 2 plays that I think that the players' averages on the season are quite far off from the number posted by the odds makers. And that's why I've mentioned them there, because I just think that I understand the situation for both teams. I understand the Ravens have been decent off the rush. But same thing with that Lamar passing prop. I mean, his average on the season and what he's done over the past 4 games is nowhere real close to what his number is listed for his passing yards.
Yeah, and one thing that I will freely admit, I completely missed the boat. Now, I'm not the only one who missed that Thursday night game, the Ravens and the Dolphins, when the Ravens played terrible. One thing that everyone that was on the Ravens missed was they're coming off an overtime game on Sunday, and that's a short week, an overtime game, and that was a lot of energy that got taken out of Baltimore, and they looked it on Thursday. So one thing situationally, both teams are very well rested. So I like where you're going with that, because I don't expect rust from these 2 teams. I expect both both teams to be at full strength with as much rest as they had. I was going to ask you about Justin Fields. he played much better at Pittsburgh, than he has previously. He had 291 yards, but again, it's kind of similar to Jalen Hurts. He only had 17 completions. This wasn't like a super efficient game where he completed, 80% of his passes. He completed 58% of his passes. He still does not have a game with multiple touchdown passes. So, what do we do with Justin Fields? Because I'm not a big Justin Fields believer right now. I won't be taking his overs anytime soon. I'm certainly not a believer in the Baltimore defense. So when you look at the quarter, you talked about Lamar Jackson. Any thoughts on Justin Fields, or is this a stay away?
Well, I'll tell you, there's definitely a reason why I went the running back route for that team.
Yeah.
But I keep on saying that I've made money this year in the prop market a lot differently than I did last year, Andy. And last year it was kind of finding these guys that are the top guys on their team and riding them. I always bring it up. I remember having that phone call with you before Sunday, and we were like, "You on Derrick Henry?" "Yeah, I'm on Derrick Henry." And then it was just it hit by the first half. But I think that there could be an opportunity for Fields this week to get it done. I would look at potentially the completions versus the yards, because I do think they're going to play a relatively conservative game. And that's kind of a prop that I like looking at more so with some guys like that. I would rather just cheer them on to throw the ball, Andy, than to, get me plenty of yards, because there's nothing more satisfying as a prop bettor when you have a completions prop for somebody and not the passing yards, and they throw like a 4-yard dink and dunk and the guy gets tackled immediately. Because if you have the passing yards, you're not excited about that. But if you have obviously the completions, you're happy about that one.
Yeah, that's why I like playing Tua when he starts on the completions. Take those all day long. So, good stuff.
Could you imagine? Like, there's definitely been some spots where players have 24, 25 completions, and yet their yards are just embarrassing. And that's probably for Tua as well.
Yeah, Tua, Alex Smith, you can go down the list. There's a lot of them that have done that. So good stuff from Andrew McInnis from WagerTalk.com, NHL extraordinaire, doing really good on the NHL props, which we'll get to a little bit later. We also have best bets at the end. The game I'm going to talk about is of course the Bills and the Colts. Freudian slip. I've had a good read on the Colts this year. Their offense is fairly predictable. But I made the point, Andrew, in the video that you and I did, that the Bills and Colts are eerily similar. The Bills wins are the Jets, Dolphins, Texans football team, and the Chiefs. The Colts are the Jags, Jets, Dolphins, Texans. The Bills and Colts combined have 11 wins. 7 of them are against the Dolphins, Jets, and Texans. I'm not sure why the Bills are I get it. Everyone thinks the Bills are that much better than the Colts. I'm just not sure how much better they are. And then they both lost to the Titans by the same score, 34-31. Checking the weather looks like it's going to be pretty good, around 45 degrees, not much wind. So I don't foresee weather being a part of this. Jonathan Taylor's been a monster, no doubt about that. This is going to be one of his best tests of the season. He has 5 games over 100 yards rushing, but that's against the Jaguars, the Jets, the Texans, the Dolphins, and the 49ers in that rain game. So this is going to be a really, really good defense. I think that the Colts secondary is the weakest part of the team, and that Josh Allen is going to have a heyday. I don't know why they would even attempt to rush it very much, maybe just to keep the Colts on their toes, but these receivers should have a lot of running room. We're not that deep. The Colts are in the secondary. And to switch it up, the Bills do have a really good secondary, and take away Pittman, and we just don't have that dynamic. We don't have a dynamic wide receiver core. So I would look at potentially some unders on like Zach Pascal, and maybe even Pittman, because that's who they're going to key in on. I could see a decent game from Mo Alley Cox. I could see Nyheim Hines being a good matchup against this Bills team. But as far as props go, I'm looking directly at the Buffalo Bills and the passing attack. I would look for Josh Allen to have a good day. Touchdowns, I would look for him to have a good day. Yards wise, I would stay away from his completions because they do throw the ball deep. You can throw it deep on the Colts, and one long play could take away a lot of the completion. So I'd be looking at Josh Allen and the yards. Josh Allen rushing has been a really good prop. He didn't rush at all last week, so the under hit on that. You might look at him going over rushing again, because they're putting this number in the low 30s, and he's done that several times this year on one play. So he's so athletic and he's so good as a runner that he could easily, rip off, 25 yarder, and then you just need one or two more runs. So I would say look for a good game from Josh Allen rushing and throwing the ball. So I can't give out Jonathan Taylor rushing, but I might look at Jonathan Taylor rushing and receiving. That's how I've been playing Jonathan Taylor, because he can do both, and he's been great. We've seen big plays receiving, and if the rushing game for the Colts is not doing good, look for Wentz to be using Nyheim and Jonathan Taylor. So if you're going to take Taylor over, I would look at including his receiving yards in some way out of that. So that is how I would look at taking the Colts and Bills from a prop perspective. So, all right, Matt, coming to you. Matt, tell us first what you got going on for us this weekend, and then you're going to talk a little college football and the NCAA basketball in-season tourneys. So what can we expect from you at sportsmemo.com this weekend?
All right, so college basketball has been going really well. Went 5-5 the opening night. It's 26-13 since then. So we're looking at it pretty well. And once again, I'll just continue to say for college basketball, you guys just have to keep looking at overnight numbers. I mean, the people who are with me for all access, you're getting the best numbers, because a lot of times overnight things are moving, especially totals, and especially some underdogs. I still feel like Vegas is overrating the underdogs here in college basketball and giving the home teams too many points. And by the time you wake up the next morning, the lines start to even out. And then, just 2 or 3 weeks in college football's regular season left. Last week, we went 5-5, first non-winning week in about a month or so. So we'll try and bounce back. And we've got a couple of good ones for this weekend. And, that's what's kind of going on with me. We'll have college basketball, college football, and the NFL, the usual suspects on sportsmemo.com.
And I'm just going to stay with you. So talk to me about some of the college football. Season's kind of starting to wind down a little bit. I know you've talked to us about some of the style points. Anything that you've noticed that we should be monitoring or paying attention to as we get into November and December?
Well, this is the time when the bad teams are going to continue to be bad. Case in point, the Temple Owls, who have seen a bunch of players transfer the last couple of days. Their offense has been atrocious. Their defense has been pretty bad. So the last couple of weeks, you really want to find the teams that seem like they're out of it and take the team total unders, take the opposition's team total overs. Now, look, Tulsa's not a very good team either, but Temple has mailed it in. It's a road trip to Oklahoma. What the heck does Temple have in terms of motivation for this one? So, you look for the teams who really have nothing to play for. And as you said, with regards to the team totals for the other ones, you're still in style points acquisition mode, Cincinnati and things like that. Not to mention there are a couple teams tonight. Case in point, Houston has already clinched their spot in the AAC title game. There are, I think, 4 or 5 teams who have already clinched into their conference's title game. Look for their motivation. Look for, if you're going to play them, maybe play them in the first half or first quarter, because you're going to see these teams start taking players out in the second half because they have bigger fish to fry. Yeah, Houston, their win total has already been locked up. The over is already hit. They've already got the AAC championship bid. So how long are the starters going to play in a game like tonight at home against Memphis? So that's something to look at. And then real quick on the college basketball tournaments, we're starting to see these tournaments now, whether it's the Maui Invitational, which is not actually in Maui this year, the Virgin Island tournaments, so all these other little tournaments. The things that you want to look for here is, remember, it's neutral court. You want to find quick turnarounds, a team that plays at 8 o'clock the night before, and they've got the quick 2 o'clock game the next day. How deep are they? How much did they have to actually try? Was there any overtimes involved? And then also, don't be afraid to look for money lines. These neutral court games are going to give you an opportunity to play a money line where you wouldn't be able to if that game was at somebody's home. Look for 2 or 3 short favorites, pair them up in a nice money line parlay, and you can get some sort of nice little bankroll there. A couple nights ago, I had Rhode Island, and I had somebody else on a money line parlay, took 2 negatives, made it into a positive plus 30. So you want to look for these teams that are certainly advantages when it comes to these neutral courts, because neutral court evens a lot of things up here early on in the college basketball season.
Awesome stuff from Matt Josephs at sportsmemo.com. Andrew, coming to you, Andrew, WagerTalk.com. I already know what's on your plate. A lot of hockey coming up, but tell us about that. And then you're going to talk about value in NHL goal scorers and trends so far in the NHL. And You sent me that message about your boy for Dallas, I believe, and I saw it all over Twitter last night. The cat is out of the bag. So, but talk to us about what you got. Talk to us about what you got this weekend, and then tell us about that fun trend, and then what else you've been noticing in NHL props.
Yeah, pretty much the same that I've been mentioning quite a bit, but NFL prop package. So just one package that will include all of my props inside. CFL playoffs are approaching. And as you guys know, in every single sport, when the season's winding down, there's the teams that are going to start their starters and teams that are resting people. And there's those bet on spots as you approach the playoffs. So really excited about CFL action. That kicks off tonight. And then the playoffs get going, guys, the next few weeks for the CFL. So as much as everybody thinks the CFL kind of disappears or doesn't ever exist, I like making money on it, and it's a great sport to do so. NHL, Saturday is always huge. Today, there's only 2 games on tap. So Fridays for me are spent on wrapping up NFL stuff and working on the huge Saturday card for the NHL. So I'll have picks up for this evening for tomorrow in the NHL, Andy, and also lots of Saturday afternoon action in the NHL. So it's not always just Saturday night stuff for people out there watching. So make sure you get those packages either tonight or tomorrow morning. Make sure you get every single play that I release. But yeah, Andy, you mentioned the cat's out of the bag. The funny thing is the cat isn't out of the bag for the odds makers, because for some reason I'm seeing that price still get lowered. I mean, I saw it 2 games ago for him was minus 130. Then the next game, it was minus 125 for Troy Terry to get a point, and he scored the goal, the first goal of the game. I mean, I've never really done this in my life before. You know, I've there's been players that I've noticed where I've made bets on consistently. Specifically in the NFL, I've done that with lots of players. But in the NHL, I've never seen somebody just go on a point streak. Like, I'm pretty sure it's now 16 straight games. Troy Terry of the Anaheim Ducks has a point, and that kind of leads me to my topic for this week. Last week on the show, I talked about juice tolerance, and this is something that I think all 3 of us have mentioned so far on the show. So I don't want to sound repetitive when I mention this, Andy, because I'm still discussing something different, but I guess I'm still talking about the word value. But what to look for is mainly what I'm discussing here. And, with hockey, there's 4 lines as far as the forwards go. And certain websites will tell you, they'll use like arrows and let you know which players have been promoted, demoted, what line they're getting the most usage on, what line they're the most productive on. And, I think that's a really big misunderstanding a lot of people have, that the top line players are the players that score all the time. For a lot of teams, the top line player could be that shutdown line that shuts down the other team's top line. And then lines 2 and 3 are the ones that get it going and start the scoring, or all the shots on goal come from there. And so what I wanted to mention this week was, for everybody out there looking to bet NHL player props, if somebody gets promoted in that lineup, it's going to take some time for the odds makers to adjust their goal scoring prop. So if you have a player that's on the 3rd line and he's usually plus 300, Andy, and all of a sudden he gets promoted to 2nd line center, he's still going to be plus 300. They're not going to change based on his position with the team, based on where he stands with the lineups. And as most people know, the more you get bumped up in the lineup, the more your ice time goes up. So you got players that play with Connor McDavid on the 1st line that are minus 120 to get a point. So if they pass the puck to McDavid and he does McDavid things, they're going to get credit for that. And if that player was usually on the 3rd line and all of a sudden he got promoted up to the 2nd, then maybe the 1st line, the odds makers are not going to catch up to that stuff. And evidently so with Troy Terry right now with a 16-game point streak, and he was minus 125 last night to get a point. Absolutely absurd, completely ridiculous. And I do think it was because he's on the Anaheim Ducks, a team that probably doesn't get as much limelight. And that has to be one of the reasons, because I think it's just ridiculous. But promotions, that's a huge thing. Coaches, make sure you're reading these quotes. Find out which players are going to be utilized on the power play in certain situations, because what I've noticed over the past week is just crazy to see Some coaches more than others, they jungle their lines quite a bit. I often use the expression, some coaches, they're making a smoothie. They toss their lines in a blender and they just blend them all up and, spit them out for a game. And it's completely different every game. For some teams, the lines are pretty much the exact same every game. But for those teams that are constantly changing their lines up, you can really, really look at it and take advantage of, hey, why is this guy plus 250 to score a goal when he's playing on the second line tonight? The Detroit Red Wings, mediocre team at best, below average. Their captain, Dylan Larkin, clearly their best goal scorer, was plus 220, a couple days back, scored the first goal of the game. I'm not saying that's always going to happen, but if you want to avoid taking these, plus 120s and plus 140s goal scorers, look at where these players stand in the lineup and try and figure out if the odds makers are adjusting accordingly.
Well, yeah, we love when they leave these guys at minus 120, minus 125. I remember my guy last year, Dougie Hamilton. He went on one of those streaks in the middle of the season. I think he got to 13 or 14 games in a row with a point. And again, you were getting him at minus 120 for 10 games in a row. So great stuff from NHL. And yeah, I will start doing NHL player props on Monday. I'll join. Had my first bet in the NHL last night. Cash it. All I gotta do is bet against the Coyotes. It's pretty easy. So, all right. That's Andrew from WagerTalk.com. Great stuff. I'm Andy from WagerTalk.com. I want to go over unders real quick, and then we'll get to bets. I'm going to talk about unders in the NFL. Didn't see that graphic before. Unders are fun too, according to Andy. Unders are fun. You know what's fun is winning. You can do it with unders. So I got 3 players to look for that most people are going to think of overs, but I'm going to make the case for unders moving forward. I would look at Najee Harris to start going under. He's had 25, 30, 29, 25, and 30 touches the last 5 games. They are using him a lot. He's not used to this workload at all. Rookie coming in, playing against NFL caliber defenses every week, and he has not averaged over 4 yards a carry in 4 straight games. The Steelers do not have a passing game that threatens anybody. Najee Harris is getting a ton of usage, and he's going to start wearing down. It is inevitable. So I would start looking at Najee Harris under some of his rushing yards. Ezekiel Elliott, the passing game of Dallas is getting much more explosive over the last month. Zeke has not rushed for over 51 yards the last 3 weeks. As we know, Pollard looks great. He's more involved than Zeke. Just doesn't look as explosive, and they're still putting his rushing number at 66.5 I saw for this week. So I'd look for Zeke. And the last one, Russell Wilson. He tends to not do well as the season goes on. I know he's just coming back, but last season he had 7 games under 250 yards passing out of his last 8. And he had 4 games out of his last 6 with only 1 touchdown. So you look at his first half of the season when the weather's good and the team is, fresh and he's great, but then he tends to wear down as the season goes on. And this is a Seattle team they're playing very frustrated. They have a lot of injuries, not a lot of depth. So I'd look at Najee Harris, Ezekiel Elliott, and Russell Wilson. For NBA, when you're going into the NBA, you have to understand that there are 4 things that before the game even starts, there are 4 things you have going against you if you take an over, but you have going for you if you have an under. First is an injury. The second is foul trouble. The third is a blowout situation where all the starters are sitting in the fourth. And the fourth one is the books just know you want to bet overs. So if you take an over, you have those 4 things going up against you. And it's really tough to hit overs night in and night out. I'm finding I have a lot more success with the unders. The only thing that can really hurt you is overtime, and that just doesn't happen a lot. Blowouts happen a lot more often than overtimes. Foul trouble can happen, and then you just have that built-in disadvantage where the books are going to tack on more stats. We saw it last night with Paul George. Paul George's over-under for points, rebounds, and assists was 43.5. He's going up against Dylan Brooks, who plays great defense on Paul George, and Paul George stat-wise had a good game. It was 23 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. That's not even close to his points, rebounds, assists. It was an easy under, even though on the stat sheet it looked pretty good. So really, really look at some of these unders. I think that's where the best value is going to be. I know it's not very fun, but when the books want you to bet, the books want you to bet overs, you should be betting unders. So That's my NBA. As far as what I have going on, big slate in NFL. We do have a 5% play up, and we're going to be having a lot of NBA moving forward, of course. And then next Monday, start with NHL, and golf has already started, but look for a break in golf and then start up again in January. So, all right, guys, let's do some best bets. Let's give some actionable infotainment. Matt, going to you. I really like your best bet with the news that this guy's going to play. So tell us about it.
I mean, it's simple. It's a value on there because quite often this bet, there is no value. Books either juice both sides ridiculously or it's a number that's too high. But I'll take Tua over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I understand the number. I understand the juice we're getting right now. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in 2 weeks. Didn't need to do very much against Baltimore on Thursday night. And then, the Buffalo game kind of got away from them a little bit. But the Jets are terrible. 5 straight quarterbacks have had multiple passing touchdowns against the Jets. You look at that number, Matt Ryan had 2, Mac Jones had 2, Joe Burrow had 3, Carson Wentz had 3, and Josh Allen had 2. I think Tua is very capable of 2 passing touchdowns, maybe 1 to Jalen Waddle, 1 to Mike Gesicki. So give me a shot here. Over 1.5 passing touchdowns for Tua.
Yeah, it's hard to argue when they've given up 45, 45, 31, and 54 in the last 4 games. Hard to argue that they're going to all of a sudden come out and play amazing defense. Andrew, going to you. Talk to me about your best bet.
I'm going with CeeDee Lamb over 72.5 yards here this week. I look at this guy, and I've talked a lot about averages and looking at differential right now. He's averaging 80 receiving yards per game. Last week, 94 yards, but it was kind of, in blowout fashion, so it's hard to kind of really know what to take out of that. But guys, when you look at this Dallas receiving core, they are deep. There's plenty of options, and I feel like this team getting healthier at the receiving position has only helped CeeDee Lamb get more options and make explosive plays and kind of fall under the radar, if that's even possible with a guy like CeeDee Lamb. One thing I love about CeeDee Lamb, because we were talking earlier in the show about completions and sometimes players just catch the ball and get tackled. CeeDee Lamb is not one of those guys. Last week, this guy turned a short dink and dump pass into a 37-yarder. This guy knows how to move after he catches the ball, and that will make the difference this week for him. So looking at CeeDee Lamb, over 72.5 for a very deep receiving core, I think he can get there. I just love how explosive he is after he catches the ball and how he can turn a small play into a big play.
CeeDee Lamb over receiving. I am going to go with another over in the receiving category. I'm going to go with the running back, though. Joe Mixon over 16.5 receiving yards. He's gone way over this total in 3 out of 4 games. The game he didn't go over was against Baltimore. That was that crazy 41-17 game where they didn't need him to catch any passes. But the games around that, he had 5 catches for 59, 4 for 58, 5 for 46. He's just been really involved, and they're playing a Raiders team that, boy, they played terrible last week. It looked like they gave up. So I would expect a pretty good performance from the running backs of Cincinnati against a very weak defensive line of the Las Vegas Raiders. And I'm looking at this, and he can get over this in 1 catch. This is a very low number. So if he's getting 4 or 5 catches again, this should go over pretty easy, and it only takes 1 to get over the 16.5. So I like his usage in the passing game. Take Joe Mixon over 16.5 receiving yards. Quick recap on all of our best bets. This looks like a 3-0 week. It's like a 3-0 on our best bets. I got Joe Mixon over 16.5 receiving yards. Andrew McInnis, CeeDee Lamb over 72.5 receiving yards, and Matt Josephs, Tua Tagovailoa over 1.5 passing TDs. Feeling good about those best bets, guys. Good work. So that's going to do it for Prop It Up. Yeah, that's really good stuff. Good work, guys. That's going to do it for Prop It Up. Thanks to Andrew McInnis, WagerTalk.com, Matt Josephs on SportsMemo.com. I'm Andy Lang on WagerTalk.com. Good luck. Hope everyone has a profitable weekend, and we will see you next week for Holiday Thanksgiving edition of Prop It Up.
The WagerTalk You Pick special is live, giving you the option to pick the league of your choice and get 30 days of picks for only $99. 30 days of the NFL for $99, done. Just want NBA and NHL for the next month? You can do that for only $99 each. That's right, $99 gets you every release from the league of your choice from your favorite handicapper, including 5% best bets for 30 days. No coupon code is required, and 30-day sports passes will go back to regular price Sunday at midnight. So lock in as many sports and handicappers for only $99 before time runs out.